Welcome to the Scale with Stride podcast, the place where you come to listen to some of the world's most influential leaders of the SaaS industry. I'm your host, Adam Richardson, and on today's episode, I'm pleased to speak with Usman Gulfaraz. With a strong pedigree in the tech space, Usman has worked for companies such as Oracle, Shape Security, Tessian, and is currently Chief Revenue Officer at Speechmatics, a Series B speech-to-text AI platform. Some of the key takeaways from today's conversation were the challenges and sacrifices of being a top performer, selling a premium product, and of course, Usman's philosophy around hiring great sales reps. Let's dive in. Usman, thank you very much for joining us on the Scale with Stride podcast today. Been really looking forward to this conversation. You've been, a huge champion for Strive over the years, whether it be as a client, the roundtable events that we've done. So it's an honor to have you on today's episode, and really looking forward to the discussion that we've got planned. I suppose for the benefit of the listeners today, it'd be great if you could, introduce yourself, your role, a bit about Speechmatics and what you're doing there, and like a bit of a short synopsis over your career, just to give people a bit of a flavor for your background.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you, Adam, for having me and Helen. I really appreciate the time. I've become a fan of your whole team and all the great stuff you guys have been doing at Strive. So anything I can do to further your great cause, I'm always happy and willing. So great to chat with you. So with regards to me, I think the first thing that will probably throw most people off is the accent. I am very much here in London, and I always tell folks that don't let the accent fool you. I've actually been here for a number of years right now. I've tried, but I can't pick up the accent. So it is what it is. But I've been here for the best part of about almost 18, 19 years now. And I moved over from California back in 2005. And I moved over with a company that I was very kind of excited about, called Cadence. And basically I moved over at that point in time to really get a little bit of the EMEA experience under my belt. And the thing about London is that it's a very addictive place. And so my wife and I, or my girlfriend at the time and my wife now, and the mother of my two beautiful children, we kind of instantly fell in love with the city, and it became home very quickly for us. And one thing led to another, and we're still here today. So London is definitely home, and basically, kind of my kind of career has really been a ladder of sorts within the sales arena. I started off right at the absolute base, where I started off as a business development manager or business development rep back at Oracle. That was my first real gig, straight out of university, and that was in San Francisco, and then onwards to becoming an AE, and then an AE kind of director, then a manager, what have you. Fast forward to where we're at now. For the last few years, I've been involved in various leadership roles with some very, very exciting companies, and I've had the kind of great fortune of some great success and equally great failures, and I've learned from both of them. So that's where I'm at. And today, with what kind of currently, most recently, I'm with a company called Speechmatics. It's a fabulous company that is really continuing to be a leading figure in the rise of Brit tech. Speechmatics is pretty much the undisputed leader in autonomous speech to text transcription and translation. We're doing things that are far beyond what folks are used to and aware to. And we can talk about that a little bit later. And but I've taken over as the Chief Revenue Officer just in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like Speechmatics, then, so for the listeners, people that are within the space or interested in the space, it'd be good to understand a lot around the business, the vision, the mission, the plan, and what your plan is really.
Sure. So I joined Speechmatics back in July, and it was really kind of looking at that next role. And my criteria of looking for an organization is pretty acute. I mean, I know what I'm looking for, And fundamentally, I'm at that stage in my career where I'm only interested in working with organizations that really inspire me. And I think that there's a real opportunity for growth and a possibility to impact the world positively in some way. Speechmatics covers all of that and then some. And um, I think in the essence of what their simple motto is, it really kind of captures it all. Speechmatics has a simple motto, and that is to understand every voice. That's an incredible statement to make, and the nuanced meaning behind that is so kind of huge that to undertake such a kind of thinking is itself really exciting, and so I think that's what really kind of inspired me. So Speechmatics is all about changing the concept of how we communicate, interact, and we've all seen kind of the technologies come, starting to come of age. We've all got our Series and okay Googles and this and that, and I think most folks would agree that the series of this world and the Googles of this world can be quite temperamental, and you may be asking for directions to some place, and you end up getting the recipe for a carbonara or something. So uh, they have their own kind of challenges, right? And so when Speechmatics approached me, when I kind of looked at what they were doing, they really kind of said, "Well, we have taken speech and we have focused entirely on accuracy, and so we can do what nobody else can. We can do it better than everybody else. We can do it quicker, and we can do it with a lot more ease." Um, that was very exciting, and then what's really exciting is that it isn't about just the capabilities that they have, kind of when you and I speak. This is about taking very difficult accented, very difficult kind of language with people who have challenges, whether it's on various levels, the very young, the very old. They speak very differently than us, and it really does mean what they say on the tin can, that we want to understand every voice. So um, that was very inspiring. And when I saw the technology and when I saw what it could do, I knew immediately that I wanted to be a part of it. And so that was one aspect. And then, really, kind of what was really the next step was for me, as somebody who's been in the business and sales arena for many years, is how do I impact this positively? Speechmatics has such a wonderful brand, and they've got such fabulous customers that really, for an organization like Speechmatics, the next step was, how do we just really take this fabulous technology and fabulous company we have and start to scale it with pace, right? Because it was born out of Cambridge University, a lot of academics behind it, and a lot of folks that are really focused on the actual details of the product and the product vision. um, Somebody like me could really come and add some energy to that from a business and sales standpoint. So that was the challenge. I've come in, and I'm very excited to kind of tell you that we are continuing to grow. We've got customers all over the world. Some of the biggest, most exciting brands in the world continue to use us, and we're growing in that in a big way. So uh, I've completed my first full quarter last quarter. I'm very happy to tell you it was a strong quarter, and Speechmatics is growing with great kind of energy, and I hope everybody watches the space very closely.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for that. And what better place to find a sort of a language recognition business than in the UK, with such a small country with all the different accents, the Scousers, the Northerners, the Londoners. It always fascinates me how products like that can recognize the different accents. So interested to see how the business evolves, and to see your success over the coming months and years. So, but thanks for that, Usman. Now, um, I suppose from knowing you, we've known each other for quite a while now. We've met multiple times. From my experience of you, what I'd describe you as like the quintessential salesperson, the quintessential sales leader in terms of some of your characteristics and your traits. But what is it that makes you the sort of the salesperson, the sales leader, and the individual that you are today? Like, what is it through your journey that shaped who you are today?
That's a very interesting question, and Adam, it's really interesting when you're in the sales arena. it applies to everywhere. Essentially, all kind of walks of life, but specifically the sales arena. From an evolutionary standpoint, one goes through a really interesting stage in their life where at the beginning you want nothing to do but to talk about yourself, and then as you continue to grow, you want nothing to do but to talk about your team and all the kind of great success around you. So I'm at that latter stage in my life, so I'm going to attempt to try to talk about me at the risk of not making my own self cringe. But here, fundamentally, I think there are certain attributes that I think hold true to a commonality of people that generally strive for being the best they can be in all facets, and those attributes I hold very dear to myself, and actually I apply them directly into the hiring that we do. So anybody that's ever worked with me, yourselves included, you guys all had a very, very clear remit of the kind of folks that I would want to hire. Is that a fair assumption?
Very fair.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because I have seen a system that I believe works, or at least it works more often than not, and I just want to apply that to every single kind of aspect. So those characteristics for me have been, and we can break it down throughout my career. I've been guilty of an incredible amount of things that I'm weak at, and so we could talk about all the weaknesses, but that's going to require its own podcast. But we can, happy to do that. But the areas that I think that really were kind of focal, central to me are um, there's always been an incredible sense of passion in what I do. From day one, I realized one thing: I do not have the patience nor the capacity to to do well in something I'm generally not interested in, and so I accepted that. And so if I was going to do something, it had to be with a sense of passion. And that's in every conversation I have. Everybody understands that I generally want to put myself out there, and I'm generally excited about it. So passion has been one of the kind of most interesting kind of components of what I do. And it can, there's so many different kind of virtues of passion that kind of come to play. But I've always been excited about what the possibility is, and kind of getting out there and making sure that if I'm talking to one customer, I don't care if it's the one customer I'm speaking to after speaking to 15 customers. I knew that I had to always have that same level of passion with that 15th customer as I did with that first customer. That was one of those kind of holy grail characteristics that I absolutely believe in. And to this day, I do not believe in attending a meeting if I'm not absolutely passionate about it, or if I'm genuinely interested. If I start to kind of wean off, I will quite literally tell people that I'm signing off, because I don't want to be there uh, uh, unless I'm giving it my all, right? So that's one aspect. I think the second aspect is, again, at the risk of making my own self sound a little weird, is intelligence is a very important kind of component of achieving what you want to try to achieve. And I don't mean kind of intelligence like book smart intelligence and all that good stuff. I refer more to kind of cognitive insight, having kind of the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes, think about the conversation from a different perspective, understand where somebody else is coming from, and know really kind of the nuance of what the possibilities are. To me, that is so important. I look at people that I hire today, and I always kind of think about how much self awareness do they have about the kind of conversation that's being had. So that street smart cognitive insight, you just cannot replace that, right? And we'll talk about a little bit later how I believe fundamentally we've got to treat sales as a science, just like anything else. And cognitive insight, I think, forms the basis of a lot of that. So that was something that, again, I always kind of put myself into. I wanted to make sure that I understood the construct of the conversations that I was having with prospects and customers. And I wasn't just trying to shove something down their throat. Rather, I was trying to figure out always, what is it that these guys are going to need to hear or see to start breaking down some of that wall of doubt. So I would oftentimes put that in that perspective.
So like a mixture of like fluid intelligence and the emotional intelligence piece. So you don't have to have the most ridiculous IQ and be stupidly
Yeah.
book smart, but have that fluid intelligence, the ability to like problem solve, think on your feet, and then have the emotional intelligence to sort of deal with the human aspect.
That's absolutely right, and I think that that is fundamental to what I'm saying, and oftentimes people mistake this for just kind of, oh, I graduated from Stanford or Cambridge and this therefore I have this kind of capability. I think no, it's absolutely understanding the psychology of humans and understanding that at the end of the day, everybody wants to do something. They want to feel better about the work that they're doing, and so just because somebody is saying no or not interested isn't a kind of take on salespeople and their product, and oftentimes salespeople take that very personally. To me, it kind of comes back to, well, I have to figure out a way to engage with this person, so the person lets the guard down. I want to understand the perspective. I want this person to know that I'm trying to find a commonality here, and kind of take that. So that has been kind of a constructive part, and I think that's a good way to put it. So that kind of emotional and the emotional intelligence part really kind of comes in really well after that. And I think the last thing that I would say is for me has been coachability. I cannot stress that enough. We live in an era right now where people unfortunately have worked for 8 months, 9 months, are looking for that promotion, want to get into, to the next role for 8, 9 months, and then get to that promotion. And what happens is that very quickly what they realize is that they've just kind of grown their career titles without necessarily growing their career experience. So for me, I always knew that because I had so many weaknesses, as like we all do, um, I had to be ready to be coached. And so throughout my career, I have found mentors that I have just sunk my nails into. Um, some of them know it very well that they were mentors. Some of them had no idea. But for me, they certainly were. And it was an important kind of way for me to kind of have a North Star that allowed me to kind of look at it. I would look at people's attributes as to what is it that this person is doing that makes this person so successful, and I would quite literally just follow suit and kind of check on that.
To recap, I think what you're saying here is passion is important to believing in the product and the business that you're working for, so you can really get behind it and be engaged in the conversations that you're having to drive that business forward. That cognitive insight, a nice blend of street smarts, the fluid intelligence, and the emotional intelligence to be able to read situations, break problems down, and offer a valid solution. And then I think finally around coachability, that piece is so important in sales, particularly when you're selling complex products, complex sales cycles, complex stakeholders. I think having people with that sort of growth mindset who are willing to take on the advice and experience from other individuals and implement that is super important. So it's good to get, I suppose, your perspective on some of the things that have helped shape you to the individual that you are today. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about, and then we can move on to, I suppose, the focus of the conversation today was specifically around your time around Oracle. There's so many businesses are always coming to ourselves, coming to Strive, asking for a specific caliber of sales rep, and there aren't many. I suppose out there that have quite come to some of the levels of achievements that I suppose you managed to achieve at Oracle. So it'd be really good to understand a little bit around that sort of journey, and rather than focusing purely on the positives and the successes and the wins, it'd be really good to understand, I suppose, more around the challenges and sacrifices. Because I think, when it comes to being a top performer, a lot of people will talk about the success that they had, but people don't always understand like what goes into that, sacrifices that you make, the challenges that you faced, and as you referred to, some of the failures that you've experienced, and ultimately how that's then led to where you are today. So it'd be good to understand a little bit around that journey and your experiences there.
Sure. So we can get specifically with Oracle, we can kind of I'll try to talk a little bit about it. Uh, I think I will start off by saying I think it's a good frame to say, rather than talking about the success, talk about the challenges, because in my mind, from a sales standpoint, we are sometimes in a very unfair world, right? A lot of salespeople they use the word unfair all the time, right? And there's reason for that, right? The reason fundamentally is there's a reality that you can be doing everything by the book, uh, waking up every day with a goal to really kind of set the bar high, meeting your customers, prospects, understanding the business case, raising the stakeholders, creating a close plan, challenging them with kind of their own process and trying to keep that going. And you could be doing all the right stuff and still not be successful when it comes to closing the deal because Lady Luck may play a card at the 11th hour. So I think that I always tell folks that the difference between success and failure um, is that in both instances, as long as you have put in the execution and the effort, right, that will eventually pay out, right? And so it's not going to
It's
be a
like the law
one-off.
of large numbers, isn't it? It'll always balance itself out over the
It
course of
always
time.
balance itself out, and I think that you're going to win some and you're going to lose some, but maintaining that discipline of execution and focus and staying true to your playbook, you will absolutely kind of come out on top in the long run, and I think many times over. So I think with Oracle, what had happened was this was my second time at Oracle, and uh, the first I started my career at Oracle, as I mentioned to you earlier, and then the second time around, we got acquired into Oracle. That's when you know a company's big. When you even if you don't want, you kind of get sucked back into it.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible experience. So I was with a company called Responses. This is kind of during that era of marketing automation and where a lot of kind of the noise was around that new kind of move to customer centric marketing and what have you. So Oracle had acquired us, and it was obviously very, very exciting for the whole company. But we went from being a small, relative, a startup kind of company with a few hundred employees, I would say, to suddenly being a part of this massive oil tanker again. And so there were immediate challenges, which was, well, we still had to do what we did, but now we were a totally different organization. And one of the things about startup companies is uh, the ability to be kind of nimble and quick and fast and not have a lot of red tape. Those are the kind of core strengths, right? And being able to directly engage with the CEO and the chief product officer and all that good stuff to help you get on the calls. Suddenly, you're working for a company where you'd be lucky if you even know what the boss above you's your boss's name is, and so it's a very different kind of arena. So there was a lot of challenges as to kind of what to do over there. My kind of focus remained though. I knew one thing, and that was again one of the things that I've known all my life is I know what my strengths are and I know what my weaknesses are. Right. And I think that's one of the lessons that I teach a lot of folks, a lot of my sales team is understanding, having a strong sense of self awareness is perhaps one of the most valuable attributes for any professional, regardless of whether you're in sales or not. But knowing the parameters of what your strength is and what your weakness is, because if you know that, you know where to double down on and you know where to kind of pull back from. So um, I took that into my career, into my time at Oracle the second time around. And it was, okay, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, right? I knew that I had the capabilities to engage customers and to uh, my communication kind of capacity to engage with them, find that sense of commonality was strong. And I knew that I was a lot more kind of impressionable when it was face to face or when it was in person. So those are all attributes I knew, and I knew that there was kind of some core areas of strength that I had there. Um, there were areas of weakness that I had. My areas of weakness was I wasn't the kind of person that liked to send a lot of emails and a lot of data down to people and have them start thinking about things through a bunch of kind of various white papers and data and all that kind of stuff. Because I just thought that for me, it started to it started to take away from where I thought I could really make an impact, and I just felt like I wasn't giving it. I didn't know how to give it that sense of clear importance that it clearly did. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying for me that wasn't an area that I was especially kind of strong on. And so I knew that. And I'll tell you one little secret here right now that formed the foundation of my career up until today. And at least I believe it does for me. But one of my mentors, the very first job I ever had out of college when I was at Oracle the first time, I was absolutely blown away by this person. He was a tenured sales executive, meaning that he was at a company for many years. He did so well, but he didn't want to manage anybody. He just wanted to be a salesperson. So he was a very, very senior person without managing anybody, but just a salesperson. And I was just absolutely like a moth to a flame, just completely in awe with his the way that he did his ran his business. So I asked him one day, and I sat down. And I said, "How is it? What I just need to know, like, what is the best thing I could do to make an impression in a meeting when I meet prospects?" And I kept on, I said, "Look, I mean, is it going in more prepared than anybody? Is it, having all the kind of content ready to go? Is it understanding competitive man?" And he said something I'll never forget. And he said, "Just make it the most fun that that person has had that day." And I said, "I don't know what you mean." He said, "Make the meeting that you have with that person just the most fun meeting you have that day." I said, "Okay, so does that mean make my content the most fun? Does that mean make the pitch?" He said, "No, just make that meeting the most fun that he or she's had that day." And I kind of took that, and I didn't understand what it meant, but I took it, and I took it to such heart, Adam, that I tell you right now that that is probably the strongest uh, um, ace card that I have in my playbook. And it's been true with me to that day, and I understood what he meant, and the ethos, and this is what I did, and fast forward to what come to Oracle today, my thinking was very simple, and his kind of the thinking was that, look, these guys that you're gonna be meeting, these folks, men and women that you're gonna be meeting, they meet with vendors all the time, right? And, if you can do something to make that first meeting just a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more fun, a little bit more memorable than any of the other meetings they've had that day. That's your door in. All your goal in with the first meeting is to get the second meeting. That and it stuck with me throughout my career. And like I said, it's a foundational part of my focus today. So when I was at Oracle, I had taken on a region that I had very little exposure in. It was kind of the emerging markets, the Middle East, and this and that. And nobody wanted that region. They didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because everybody was selling into, London and Europe and whatnot. Um, and so that was my thinking was, if I'm gonna get out there, I have to get out there for a week at a time. And of course here in EMEA as well, kind of with different regions, but I'm gonna make these meetings just focused on making it absolutely engaging and fun, and I'm gonna let them know who I am as a person and how interested I am in doing that. And that was my entire ethos. My ethos was get out there and make the meetings the most interesting meetings we can have. As soon as I did that, I knew I learned very quickly that people will take a call if they like you, if they enjoy having a conversation with you, and and then you have all the time in the world to do your pitch and get them to listen to you afterwards. If you've earned the right to let them hear you out, you don't you can do that continuously, and it doesn't have to be on that first call. So that was kind of my kind of what really that was the first aspect of what I did. The second aspect of it was I created a reverse plan for what I wanted to do. Really kind of selfishly, I thought about what are the most important things to me, and I was at that those formative years of my life where I needed to make a lot of money, or at least a lot of money to what was a lot of money to me. So I created a reverse plan, and to this day, my entire team, if you talk to anybody on my teams, they do reverse plans, and that is okay. What is the target that you got to get to, right? And let's do a reverse plan at the start of the year as to how you're going to get there. So in our kickoff, like we do that now. This is what I did then. I said if I need to get to 200% of my number because I want to make X amount of commission, what is the path for me to get there? What are those 10 accounts? What are those 12 accounts that are going to help me get there? Because these 10, 12 accounts, I'm going to get absolutely sunk knee deep into. I'm going to research these people. I need to know these accounts better than the customers themselves. And I want to do that. And then I want to start kind of building out that. So I had a kind of a game plan from day one that this is what I was going to do. Didn't all go to plan. A lot of them would kind of fall out. A lot of them would come in. but I knew that I always had to have that reverse plan. And so those two things, with the kind of characteristics that we've already talked about, kind of the coachability and passion, really led to having some of the best success I had in a while. And I think with all good salespeople or with all people, it feels like once the snowball starts, it kind of rolls on its own and luck starts to come in your way.
It's a really interesting point that you raised there around making the meeting fun. And I think, yeah, you alluded to. I think it's about being memorable. Following a good process, making sure that you're making the best use of the individual's time, but yeah, coming away from that meeting and leaving a lasting impression. I think if you're a prospect and you're being contacted multiple times each day by different stakeholders, people constantly selling to you, who's the person that you're gonna pick up the phone to when you have that need, or there is a demand for that specific product within your business. It's the salesperson that you remember. So I think being authentic, driving value, but also like making it fun, personable, and leaving a lasting impression is definitely something that I'd definitely echo that point as well. So, which moves us on to I suppose the focal part of the conversation which I wanted to have with you today, Usman, was around positioning your product as a premium solution. We've spoke about this before, and particularly with what you're doing now at Speechmatics. I'd love to get your insight, for the listeners out there who are, selling a premium product or who aren't selling a premium product, and about some of the sort of key learnings and advice that you'd give around positioning that and selling it. So, I suppose to start the discussion on this, like how would you define a premium product? Like, what is it that would position your product as something premium?
So that's an interesting question. I understand the context of the question. It's the word premium that kind of throws you off, because when we take a step back, nobody really assumes that their product isn't a premium, right? If you're unless you know that your business is in the copycat kind of, hey, we're just going to create a much cheaper version that we're going to take whatever customers are happy to do that. But that's not the business that that's exciting, or that's not the business that most of us that are in tech aspire to be a part of. So that said, when you join an organization that uh, is a startup, or is a successful large public company, or what have you, there's a lot of hard effort that's been put behind this, and people have put a lot of sweat and tears. And if you're a startup raising that kind of money to get this, uh, you do it because you believe in the product, and you believe in the supremacy of that product in that space, and you put your heart into it. And so, to that extent, I think that every aspect of a product has or a company has that aspect of wanting to be looked at as a premium product. I think the question I would rather say is, rather than what's the premium product, because a premium product on its own doesn't make the company necessarily grow just because it's a better product. I would say, what is the premium experience? Okay, of engaging with a customer. Um, so I'll tell you, there's a really there's a old 80s or early 80s, early 90s movies, made for TV movie called Pirates of Silicon Valley. Your viewers may or may not remember it. I'm probably aging myself here, but it's a really bad movie. But it was all about kind of the rise of Apple, rise and fall of Apple, and Microsoft and whatnot. And there was a very famous line, and I may be getting it wrong a little bit, but folks who know me know I always tell this one little story. But there's a very famous line in that, and if you know the story of Apple, before Apple's meteoric rise again, they were almost bankrupt. They were about to collapse, and Steve Jobs was in a really dark place. Everything was about to kind of collapse on him. He had to leave, and Microsoft was kind of taking off and just really kind of climbing the ranks. And there's a lot of history there between the two of them, and 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 Steve Jobs prided on having the better product and what have you, and of course Microsoft was about getting it out as quick as possible, and streamlining it and making it user friendly and all that. So when it was an absolute collapse, Apple and Microsoft was going, they were Steve Jobs and Microsoft and Bill Gates had met, and in that one scene, um, Steve Jobs was just looking out, I guess, towards the window, and Bill Gates was walking. They were about to say bye, and it was pretty clear that Steve Jobs is over after that. And while Bill Gates was walking out, Steve Jobs said, we're better than you, right?" And Bill Gates paused and he said something to the likes of, "That's your problem, Steve. No one cares." Right? And he just walked out. That has haunted me for ever since I've seen that. And what that has always told me is just having the best product on its own means very little, right? It's what I'm gonna do with this product. How am I gonna change the experience for my customers? Why is the overall experience of engaging with us going to be what's so important? And that is, of course, when you look at all the great companies, you think about the experience now. So for me, what really defines a premium product and what I hold very near and dear to my team, to the organization I work with, is I said, look, our job is to create the value proposition as to why we are fundamentally an important part of the customer's business and how we understand their business, um, and the kind of the pros and cons of what they're doing and how we position ourselves as experts that will fundamentally impact their business for the positive, right? Our product is a means to an end. It's how we solve that problem for our customers. So to me, the most important thing about a company that prides itself on being the leader of the pack is that they are able to articulate with absolute kind of strength and precision the problem that they're going to solve, and the problem they're going to solve better than anybody else, the understanding that they have, and the fact that they can tell you what's around the corner just that few months earlier than anybody else. It's that experience that ultimately leads to a customer, in my opinion, wanting to have that product. That's what my goal is, with Speechmatics, and it's what it's been with every organization I work with.
So just to like break that down, what you're saying is it's not all just down to purely around the technology. It's the whole experience from every engagement, every piece of marketing, the product, the sales rep that they deal with, the leadership that they're onboarding, the whole experience and the value that the product drives. You're not just a premium product. It's got to be all of that, and you need to nail all aspects of that to be that sort of leader of the pack. Which I'd like to like break that down. And so you've talked about being able to articulate with absolute clarity around the value. What about from like a marketing and a brand perspective? So if I'm a founder or I'm a sales leader now trying to influence this within the business, what are the kind of what's the advice that you'd be given in terms of like your marketing and brand and how you're positioning yourself in the marketplace to be that premium experience business, or that premium solution?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because from a marketing standpoint, marketing itself is such a vast spectrum of effort. Both there's marketing in terms of brand marketing, obviously, then there's product marketing, then there's how do we drive lead generation. There's so many different kind of components of it, and so obviously, there's different kind of detail that is applicable to each one of them. But when it comes to the face of the company that we want to represent, in my opinion, it's always been, um, to me, the most important thing about a premium experience is you want to give the impression that you are somebody that can hold somebody's hand and lead them to what is happening. You want to be that person that everybody looks to for direction, that, hey, these people know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. They know where the trend is going. They know where the industry, they are industry thought leaders, right? And that's what we pay a premium for, right? We pay a premium. The reason why we know, all of us know that there's a new iPhone or a new Android phone coming out in September, October. We're all waiting patiently to know what that next level of product set in the phones are going to look like, or functionalities and features. And so The reason why a lot of people will never leave these Apple or these folks is because they are thought leaders, and people just trust in them that they are going to guide them into what the future looks like. And so it is an absolute kind of it is, it's a fallacy to assume that every company in its own right can't have that same kind of mindset. And so for us, we as Speechmatics, we say, look, we want to be well regarded as the thought leaders that we are. Our engineers are focusing on not solving the problems of today. They're focused on what are the problems that are going to emerge after what we've already solved today, and what does that journey look like? And what once we understand every voice, well, what can we do with that? What is the power potential of now that Adam and I can speak to four different people who speak four different languages, and we can communicate with absolute efficiency and real accuracy? What's that next level of power? And for example, what we are doing at Speechmatics is we're calling it speech intelligence, which is now that we have the accurate understanding of it, let's talk about the power of how we can create some generative AI on the back of that, summarize what the conversation you've had, talk about the key themes, talk about what was this conversation done with a positive sense? At what point did it start getting a negative tone? All these kind of really exciting creative things that you can start doing things with. So to me, I think that's what it comes back down to. As a from a marketing standpoint, an organization really needs to say, what is the best way we can show that we are thought leaders in the space? If you are shown as thought leaders, people will look to you as thought leaders. And I think that is the kind of real goal or aim from my standpoint.
Yeah, I suppose in terms of the importance of like positioning yourself and becoming a thought leader in the space is one way to then position yourself as that premium solution and provide that premium experience. I suppose the other side of the coin is around identifying the right customers who have the need. So I'd love to understand a little bit around your philosophies for like market segmentation and finding and defining ICPs when it comes to going to market with a premium solution. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, thought leadership is a critical component of what you need in terms of the mindset of impression the U.S. organization want to give out to the world, and that is regardless of whether somebody is a in your ICP or not, is your ideal target. That impression remains, and I think that is an important kind of aspect to delineate the two. Uh, Now, having said that, the kind of the details of how we go about achieving success and growth is very detailed. It's very meticulous, and there's a lot of science, like I said, that goes kind of into it. And kind of the last couple of leadership roles that I've had have really thrown me into the ocean, so to speak, with having to learn very quickly what works and what doesn't, trying a lot of things, failing in a lot of things, finding paths forward. And I think with both post Oracle, kind of the two leadership roles that I think really helped me kind of create that sense was my time at Shape Security, which an incredible journey, something where I learned so much. What I was capable of doing, strengths, weaknesses, what just wasn't working. But again, very fortunate enough at the end of the day to achieve and be part of a very exciting acquisition by a five. And then my time at Tessian after that, where I was able to really apply from day one, really kind of the details of what I believed really became foundational to the best chances of us securing success. And we achieved some great success at Tessian, where I ran the EMEA organization there, which again, very fortunately led to a very recent acquisition by Proofpoint. So, kind of coming to that question, Adam, for us, understanding where we fit in the landscape of the market is incredibly important. So one of the first things that I did when I joined Speechmatics is quite literally, took a step back and said, I need to understand how we position ourselves. What is our ICP? What does our ICP look like today? Why is that our ICP? Challenging the notion of what an ICP is, and then understanding what that spectrum looks like, and how do we build ourselves to have the most chances for success. So, when you think about ICP um, and market segmentation, and you think about a startup, well, by definition, the ideal customer profile should be evolving eventually, right? If you become a customer, an organization, you may have a speciality in a certain space, but if you're an organization that wants to kind of continue to grow, by definition, so too should your ICP. So I believe that we should be constantly testing our ICP. Not every day, obviously, because we've got to set territories and plans, but certainly every year we have to really look hard at where we are with ICP, what success we had, what are we, what new territories and regions and verticals can we flirt with as to bring into ICP. So for me, I look at that. I look at what our business use cases are, and I break it down into some very logic-oriented structure. I think about what is the lowest hanging fruit of where we know as an organization that with minimum effort we can kind of go in there and get some early success. So create a bucket of that. The next one is what is that the real engine, so to speak, where the core of your customers lie, and it's more of a cash cow. Where if you kind of keep putting time and effort into this specific arena of target market, you're bound to get success, and there'll be quite a bit of volumetric based success, whether the deals are of various sizes or not. But again, a very, very important component because it kind of forms the basis of it. And then we say, what are our kind of strategic oil tanker deals or strategic customers that we believe we have to fundamentally find a market fit for. And this is kind of how I have always kind of thought about ICP. And so what we've done is we've taken a look at where we know there's a natural landing spot for our technology and kind of our vision, and we've created that kind of spectrum of the lowest hanging fruit, the middle kind of cash cow market, so to speak, and then or the volumetric size, and then we've got our strategic deals pipeline where we're saying, look, we may or may not necessarily be a fit directly, but these are such big organizations that it's important for us to become engaged with them in the capacity, and so we've got to find market fit, right? And so it's a bit of a push and pull, and so that's what we've done. We spent a lot of time on it. We went through it in great detail. We've highlighted it. We put a lot of logic into our planning to make sure every rep now gets exactly the same level of each one of those things, if that's what their kind of role is. If you're an enterprise rep, of course you would get that. If you're a commercial rep, you would get more focus on the other area. But I wanted there to be an element of all that. And so, I think we've spent a lot of time and energy on it. Once we do that, our goal then is just to continuously focus on new use cases, new compelling stories, doubling down on case studies, making sure that we can talk to the ICP space with complete comfort, right? We need to be able to talk about it from a futuristic standpoint, not just, oh, well, hey, you're in broadcasting, you need speech, right? That's just not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is what is it that the broadcasting arena is looking to do? How are they evolving? And how do we start kind of tying ourselves? So I believe that we have a capacity as an organization, or I believe most folks have a capacity to really scale when they can connect with their ICP and look to achieve or look to kind of be a match for the goals that the ICP customers have for what they want to do in the future. And that, hey, we can align with you. And so that's what we're doing very heavily at Speechmatics.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. And I suppose you've talked there around your process of breaking down ICPs into different categories. Low hanging fruit. Where can we get some quick wins? Your core business, which is going to make up a large percentage of the revenue, and then your more strategic accounts, which may be a more of a longer term play. How does that translate into like sales process then? So, with when again going back to that premium solution, that experience, how does that translate into the actual process, versus, at more of a high volume transactional sale versus to, that premium solution, premium experience that you're referring to? Yeah. How does that translate into sales process?
So everybody prays to their God of choice every Sunday. No, we're definitely putting a lot of discipline into process. Look, anybody that knows me knows I run a pretty tight ship right now on what I on execution, and it's kind of come from years, like I said, of learning it and not having it. I'll be admit that there were many years of my life where I thought, hey, I could wing it because I had some great success, and as cliche as it sounds, and it's a cliched statement. I'll say it again. Even a broken clock will tell the right time twice in a day, and so to build your kind of skill set on the back of those two incorrect times is just is something that we need to force ourselves to not to do. So I've learned over the years to run a very tight ship, and what that means is there's a huge amount of data science in everything that I do and how I run it. Um, so I guess the first and foremost thing is I have a very tight relationship with RevOps, right? Because they form a foundational basis of all the kind of things that I want to execute, so that we can kind of witness the growth or lack of, and then go in and quickly pull the levers. So when you talk about process, we have my first goal is to make sure everybody understands, especially when you're a growing company. This is more applicable to growing companies and startups, and not so much larger companies because they've got this methodology well in place. But startup organizations, depending on where you are, if you're a Series A, post Series B, post Series C, there are different things that matter for you. Where we are right now, which is a post Series B, raise a decent amount of cash, want to get to that scale up mode, get into that point where we're now truly being able to scale across. For us, what's very important is structured process and getting to a predictable growth model, right? And with that, the discipline of having a single source of the truth. Anybody who's been in startup knows exactly what I'm talking about. And what that means is, uh, you know, it, the really uncomfortable job of getting rid of those three spreadsheets that sit around somewhere in one kind of Teams or Slack around that has a different data set than what you have in Salesforce. It might have a different data than what you have in Clary or Outreach or what have you. The very first thing was getting rid of all of that, right? And making sure that we force ourselves as an organization to get in tune with whatever technology we happen to be using. Whether so, in the case of Salesforce, in the case of Speechmatics today, it's outreach with Salesforce, and kind of those are the kind of core tools. And I wanted to make sure that we all are focused on building data that is a single source based on that particular model. So I got rid of all the spreadsheets and all that. The second aspect is making sure once we've identified ICP, we've got a clear understanding of what our target is. We've gone through the difficult process of doing the territory planning and alignment. We've done all that analysis. We've got our comp plans and all that sorted, and we're ready to roll out. Now comes the process of making sure that we have a good way to ensure that the team is actually following suit on all of the kind of goals that we're trying to set out. So what that means is at the start of every week, I do something that I'm a huge fan of, and I call it my weekly objectives call. And I'm on that call with everybody. And this is not to be mistaken, for example, like a forecast call. It is just a weekly objectives call where I look at what is that. Um, every single rep has 2 minutes maximum. And all they're doing, and we've got a really diligent spreadsheet that talks about what it was the week before, what it is now, and they're just going to go through and say, these are my core objectives for the week. And with this customer, it's to agree on a commercial. With this customer, it's to agree on T's and C's. With this customer, it's to just define the stakeholder, this and that. And then there's, yes, no, this and that. And did I achieve it? And then we have, this is how many self-generated leads I'm looking to do, self-accepted opportunities. So they start off with that. They're like, this is my goal, right? Or sorry, what they'll start off on weekly objectives is this is what was last week, and they'll quickly go and say, I did achieve this or I didn't. I'm not challenging, I'm not asking, but what I want people to do is be aware that they are really running their own process, and I don't want to micromanage. I just want to know what your core focus and your energy is on, and we'll see what your objectives are. And so people are pretty self-explanatory. So people will tell you this is what I'm focused on for this week, and I just listen to it. I'm okay with that's fine. And you can tell really quickly the people that are, it's not rocket science. People that have got a lot of focus and a lot of goals that they're trying to achieve are typically the ones that end up achieving great results. And so it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. So we literally start off the week with that. Then we go into our forecast call, and later in the week, and everybody knows that there are very, very clear steps that we've got, and there is no ambiguity there. So to me, the process of knowing where you are in a stage and then moving forward is very important. Now, we apply a lot of sales methodology kind of tactics to moving our sales forward. So, there's so many different sales skills and sales kind of preferences out there that folks have. Um, I'm a big fan of the challenger model. Um, so I apply this very heavily to my teams, for the last few years, I've been doing that, um, and it's kind of in line with MedPick. So if you think about MedPick, and everybody loves to talk about MedPick, I think MedPick is a phenomenal, a set of tools to kind of, be adhering to, but MedPick is a checklist. It's, "Do I know who, this is? Do I know who the champion is? Do I know?" It's not telling you how to achieve it more efficiently. It's not teaching you how to achieve all of those things. It's just checking if you've actually done it. You've got to apply a methodology to efficiently achieve MedPick. And to my mind, what I really enjoy, and I think in disruptive technology, the challenger sales model is designed for it. So we apply our challenger model. Every single employee at Speechmatics, if you're the go-to-market org, the first thing you get when you join the company is the challenger sales book.
I saw someone post it this week, one of your team.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I think there's no better time to be reading that book than in the current macroeconomic climate, given when the book's set what's it set with the 2008 crash.
Well, I need to find whoever posted that and send them over a bottle of bubbly because I'm very happy about that. But Adam, it's an important thing because what happens is that uh, I want everybody to be able to understand a common language of what our objectives and goals are. And so I think the real value of having a sales model that you want to adapt is that everybody is understanding the challenge in the same language, so to speak, and knows how we address it, and we can all learn from each other. So we apply the challenger model very kind of diligently. We have challenger training sessions that come up. I ask folks to present me value back as to what are the kind of pros and cons of the current opportunity. Have they identified a champion? What's the constructive tension that they're putting together? How are they reframing it? And I'm making sure people speak in a way that other people speak. So we apply that process. It carries on into we're very all the kind of usual things that you would expect. We have very very disciplined QBRs where we're setting objectives. We're looking at do a quick rearview mirror, and then kind of plan forward. We do mid-quarter commit calls to make sure that people are there. Something that I hold very, very dear to my heart is something that I've learned. It's taken me forever to learn this, and I realized how important it is how important it is for salespeople, your organization, to know the difference between what it means when something is in pipeline, when something is best case, and when something is commit. I can tell you, I have spent weeks, if not months, on establishing the framework of what that looks like because if that itself could create for a leader representing kind of an overall number, a sink or swim for you because you are assuming things that are actually not there. So to establish very quickly that if you are committing something, this is what that means, and these are the stages you've crossed. It should almost by default turn into commit because we have successfully gone through all these stages, or we are at stage 5 for whatever reason, and we know by virtue of where we're at that this is a best case and this is a pipeline. So that's something we worked really hard. I'm very happy and proud to tell you that at Speechmatics we've achieved that. To me, it is a big kind of turning stone for us where it helps us to kind of launch. So all of that process with the kind of standard things that you would expect, Adam, that every sales leader would be focusing on: pipeline generation, quality of our pipeline, making sure that we're putting in time and effort in there to do that, setting a time to follow up, having one-on-ones, all of that. But in general, the process in my org, will always be such that it's so structured that even if I was ever to step away and have a holiday, which will never happen, and I'm still waiting for that to happen. But somebody could quite easily go in there and they see that the framework is in place and they could kind of just follow it while I'm away because it's so structured.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and it's interesting how you've broken down, particularly around forecasting. It's, over the last 18 months, even for us as a recruitment business, forecasting has been like such a challenge because of the unpredictability of the market. But it's interesting to learn how you've got the three different sort of stages in terms of forecasting. I think we've talked, we've talked about marketing, we've talked about messaging, we've talked about thought leadership, and sales process. One of the things that I'd like to understand from your perspective as well is around like product development and connecting the sales org to product and engineering to define future roadmaps for the product, and how as a premium solution providing that premium experience, how by leveraging that relationship between sales and product development, how that is ultimately feeding into that, continuing to position yourself as that market leading product. So talk to me about like your philosophies and how I suppose you're personally keeping connected to the CTO and those in product to ensure that not only are you providing that experience, but the product itself is way in advance in terms of features and functions and capability.
Yeah, I think that's a significantly vital part of anybody who has aspirations to do some great stuff with a company. Look, at the end of the day, uh, for anybody that's generally wants to do some exciting stuff whether it's growth, whether it's money, whether it's commercials, whether it's personal development, and you happen to be the go to market, the we can only do so much. At the end of the day, obviously, it all kind of comes down to what is the mindset of the organization from a product standpoint, and what is it that we're trying to achieve in the market, right? And to me, the most important thing. So what when I interview or for when I think about the next role that I ever want to take with any company, and that's what I did with Speechmatics, is I wanted to get a sense of what the company thought of themselves, right? That's quite literally the basis of what I look at. Are they um, a a slick sales engine that's just firing product out and making sure that they are and they've got a great kind of process in place to get this stuff out and just focusing on making sure that the growth, or are they a product company that is absolutely devoted to the product and they know what kind of the pulse of the future looks like and this and that. So there's so many different kind of nuances. What I look for, and to me what's really important from a product standpoint, is it comes back to what I said earlier. The most exciting aspect of product in my mind is a company that is focused on solving the problems of the challenges for tomorrow, right? A company that says, "Look, this is what you are looking to achieve today. You guys need this level of, we know that you're challenging. You got a value added service where you are providing an application to the media industry, which is capturing all of this great content and then being able to translate it and then providing value to the Wimbledons of this world or the Olympics or what have you." Um, but that is something that we can solve today, right? And there's the idea, and if you sit down and you look at the Speechmatics product team, 90% of their conversations are always focused on what is the next three things that we're going to be focused on once as soon as we achieve this. And the assumption is that this has to lead to a journey. And so for me, it always comes back down to product roadmap, thought leadership. Is this a company that wants to be an important figure in how the industry is going to be created in the future, and do they treat themselves with that same level of seriousness? Because if they do, right, then for us as sales in the revenue kind of business, all our job is to translate that passion and that focus to the customers. And we're not feeling like we've got to put lipstick on a pig, so to speak, or we're not feeling like we have to do that. So it is harnessing that energy and that kind of passion that the product team has into their own product future, and being able to relay that to the customers. I think that's what I look for, and I think that is the kind of thing that I believe personally makes for a very, very exciting play. When product and revenue are both focused singularly on that future, it gets very exciting.
I think that ties in again to the challenger, because if your product team are trying to solve the problems and challenges of the customers, of like challenges and problems that they don't know they have yet, then it's your job to go out and to educate the customer on that, and to inform them about future challenges that they may not be aware of, to connect them to the product. And again, that very much feeds into the challenger sale, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, couldn't agree with you more.
Cool. Okay. So I think in terms of like the final like discussion point around this topic was around, particularly around like hiring, and mindset of the individuals that you hire and that you've currently got within your team. So I think how how does this, as a premium solution, as a market leader within your space, thought leader in terms of the content that you put out and the way that you position in your brand, how does that then translate in terms of the mindset of the rep, and ultimately how that then impacts the kind of individuals that you're recruiting into your organization?
Okay. So, Adam, you will obviously know that this is a critical component of focus for me, right? And hiring, I think as Richard Branson said, hire the best people you can, and kind of get out of the way a little bit, right? So I do fundamentally believe in hiring absolutely the best people that we can find. But that's such a relative and a subjective statement that it becomes very difficult to kind of do that. So what I've learned over the years is that I have to be quite prescriptive as to what I believe constitutes that kind of thing. So it's going to go back to the kind of characteristics that we talked about earlier. But I'll give you a little 2-minute story that I tell every single one of my teams, or anybody who'll listen to me if I've had a drink. But we did a big expansion, and it kind of ties in perfectly, by the way, to the challenger, to the hiring, what I look for, and all that kind of good stuff. So we did a big expansion work in our house about a year and a half ago, or so, a year and a half to. I'm sitting in part of it, which is all kind of the new expanded part. There was a lot of work done. It was 2-story, and this and that, and quite a lot of work. And so we had to get proposals um, for contractors to kind of come in. And, this is a sizable amount of money to get done. So what had happened was we got proposals from 15, 20 kind of contractors, all kind of come in. We had given the kind of details of what we were looking to do and achieve. We almost had we had the layout. They had everything. So for them, it was kind of putting in a bid, kind of coming in and giving us their walkthrough. So we had them all, right? About 15, 20. We really kind of took time to kind of find the person that we really thought would be the right person, because it was a lot of money for us, at least. Um, and we had them all. And we had folks that kind of came and say, "Hey, look, I know that you want to do this. Um, you guys, you got a fireplace that you want to do here." They walk through with us, and we're like, "Yes." And they would stop and tell us, "Well, you'll be very happy to know, Usman and Meher, that we've done over 100 fireplace installations. We've done them big, small. We've done them gas, natural, all that good stuff. And these are the 10 references that we have. And I'm very happy to kind of connect you to them." And we said, "Great." It was very exciting, actually. And then we would kind of continue on, and they would show us, we'd come to where the bathrooms are going to be put in. And they would tell us again that, "Look, we've done a number of bathrooms, big, small, bathtub, sink, this and that, what have you, corporate, house, personal, big, kind of a mansion, small, flats. These are our references." And we would kind of continue. And we were really, obviously, as you do, you're happy. You're like, "Okay, great. You've got experience. You've got references. You've got a lot of knowledge doing that." And we would kind of go through it. About 15 of these guys, well, I exaggerate, maybe 10 to 15 of them would kind of come, and they would all in their own way walk through and tell us all of that. And we were all very excited. And look, they would go back, and we would say, "Of course, we're going to make a decision, let you know." Now, if I put myself in their shoe, they would go back very justifiably thinking, "Well, we've got a great shot at winning this business." We knew exactly what they wanted to achieve. We showed them our level of confidence in it. We showed them exactly how much experience we have in it. We've given them references of how we can achieve all of this, and we have earned the confidence that they know that we could do the work. So I think we've got a good shot. If I was that person, and they were probably right, right? So they would do that, and like a really bad Hollywood film, this is exactly what happened. We had a 16th contractor that kind of came, right? And by the way, these 10, 15 contractors beforehand, they submitted their commercials. All of them were, I would say, within 25% delta of each other, 10, 20 to 25% price range. So they're all within the same range. We had the 16th contractor come in, and like I said, it's just like a bad Hollywood movie. He came in, and I remember this. He said, "Look, I noticed you want to do a fireplace here," and we said yes. He said, "Look, typically when people want to put a fireplace there, it's because what they're trying to do is they want to break up this large space into kind of two areas because it's too large. It allows for a nice kind of view, and it also achieves some success. But in my experience, if that's the case, I've found that it's much better to position it on this side of the house because it's a lot closer to where where your connections are. Your energy costs reduce much more, and actually, if you want to get underfloor heating, it reduces the level of time it's taken to heat up the floors. Can I ask, is that why you wanted it? And we both looked at each other and said, yeah, that actually yes, that was it. They said, okay, good. Just moved on. Didn't talk about anything else. Then we went to the bathrooms, right? And he said, "Look, I know that you guys are looking to do a bathroom here, this, and that." He said, "Look, is in my experience, again, it's okay to have that, but you would gain so much more value if you just moved it to this side because what actually happens is the pipelines are connected to this side. The house is a little bit lower. Actually, you'll have a chances of a leak much less if it kind of comes down. The water will come down. You have a lot much less chance of blockage, and actually, it achieves that." You achieve a lot more kind of value out of that. And if you weren't so stuck to that, is that something you think you would consider? And we said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And he went throughout the house, not once talking to us about how much experience he has, how many customers he's done different bathrooms for, or before, how many references he had. But what did he do the entire time? He was teaching.
Educated you.
He was educating us, and we just were literally kind of going off what he said. We said, yes, oh yeah. And oh yeah, that totally makes sense. No, that's exactly right. And so what ended up happening was we were learning in the process of the entire engagement that actually what we wanted, there's a much better way to achieve it. And what we ended up with was somebody that said, okay, look, I think I can get you guys a proposal and I'll get that over to you. We didn't ask about one of his references. We didn't ask about how many times he's done this. We just felt like there was such an education at that point that when the proposal came, it was about 30% more expensive. And who do you think we went with? Right? We went with him only because of one reason. We said, this is not about price. This is about somebody who we feel so confident in that we're putting our trust in because he knows this better than us and he's educating us. So if that person knew even a word of technology, I swear to God, I would have hired him in a heartbeat, right? That's exactly the person I want. Somewhere out there is the best technology sales rep who's just really happy doing his contractual work. So I hope that story resonates with your audience.
It absolutely does, and I think that's like a really nice place to wrap up. I think in terms of painting a picture of the kind of individual you want within your organization, selling Speechmatics and selling the product and taking it to market. I think the story you just described gives a really clear picture of that. So Usman, listen, thank you so much. I know we've had a few hiccups along the way of recording this with people walking in and out, but I think we've styled it off quite well. Thank you very much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Feel like I've learned a lot myself. Appreciate your time, and listen, best of luck with everything at Speechmatics. I'm going to enjoy watching your success over the coming quarters, and yeah, thanks again for being part of today's episode.
No, I appreciate your time, Adam, and like I said, all the great work that you guys are doing. I will tell you, the arena that you guys are in is one of the most difficult ones, and it's not easy to stand out in a crowd of very crowded folks. But one of the things I really appreciate about what you guys do, and you've done very well, is very similar to us. You know what you guys are strong at. You put yourselves out there. You want to be looked at as folks that are looking to move the needle as to what is happening around the corner. And that is why I like working with you folks, is because once you believe in that, everything else becomes secondary. And so good luck for you guys' continued success. And we'll look forward to catching up again.
Cool. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want more information about the podcast, head over to our website, Scale with Strive.